Escalation in Russia-Ukraine war. After Kremlin, another drone attack on Russia. Two Ukraine drones hit buildings in Moscow. Big suspense over Russia's response. Where is this war headed? Top focus on India first.
You're on India First with me, Shiv, Aroor. Let's get you straight to the top stories we're tracking. Parliament washed out for third days. Opposition and BJP lock horns over Manipur violence. Home Minister Amit Shah says, ready to discuss. Opposition says, Prime Minister Modi must speak first. Big relief for Muslim side at the Gyanvapi Mosque battle. Supreme Court orders 2-day stay on ASI's mosque survey. Muslim side given time to move High Court. Centre to bring in amendments to Jammu and Kashmir reorganisation bill proposes reservation of 2 assembly seats to Kashmiri Pandits and 1 assembly seat for displaced POK residents. Row over Bhagavad Gita's sex scene in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. Information Minister Anurag Thakur miffed at censor board nod, demands deletion of so-called objectionable scene. Elon Musk rolls out new logo as Twitter rebrands itself. Twitter's iconic blue bird logo now replaced by a white X on black. Another drone attack on the Russian capital on Monday morning had the Kremlin up in arms, blaming Ukraine, obviously, for the attack. This isn't the first such drone attack in Moscow this year. In May, remember, Moscow witnessed drone attacks which allegedly were carried out by Ukraine. That was on the Kremlin. This time, a group of apartment buildings have been on target not very far from Moscow's VIP high-security zone, including the headquarters of the GRU, the External Military Intelligence Office. The drone attack has become a new normal in the 516 days of the Russia-Ukraine war. Here's the latest.
В Москве рано утром пресекли атаку украинских беспилотников. Минобороны заявили...
Russian TV reported on Monday of 2 drone attacks on civilian buildings in its capital city.
Летательные аппараты разбились, не достигнув цели.
Форуме по иностранным инвестициям. Форум.
Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin claimed that 2 non-residential buildings were struck at around 4 a.m. allegedly by Ukraine in a terrorist drone attack. The Russian Defense Ministry claimed that 2 drones were suppressed and crashed, and there was no serious damage or casualties.
I heard a bang and then nothing. We did not see anything flying, even though the windows were open. It was night time. And we should have heard the sound of something flying, but no, nothing.
I was asleep and was woken up by an explosion. Everything started to shake. It felt like the whole building had come down. I looked out of the window. In the neighboring building, there was some damage. And it felt strange. The damage was so minor.
Not only Moscow buildings, on 24th July morning, an ammunition depot was hit during an alleged Ukrainian drone attack in Crimea. Russian Air Defense Forces claimed to have shot down or electronically jammed 11 drones over the area. This wasn't the first time that the Russian capital was attacked by drones allegedly by Ukraine. 2.5 months before, on 3rd May, 2 drones were spotted near Kremlin, the power citadel of Russia, causing little damage. While Ukraine denied, later US officials claimed that they were possibly operated by Ukraine's secret service.
Abhishek Bhalla, National Bureau Chief, who was in Ukraine and has reported on the war extensively, one of the first journalists to get there and report to the world, is with me live. He's tracking everything that's happening in Moscow and in Ukraine right now. Abhishek, what information can you share with us about this latest drone attack? What is Ukraine saying? What are your sources saying in both Russia and Ukraine?
Well, it's not common for the Ukrainian forces or the Ukrainian government to be claiming such drone attacks, but this time it has happened. Till now, Ukraine has been in denial of any kind of drone attacks in mainland Russia. And when this drone strike took place earlier, the Russian side said that, in fact, this was a terror attack. But later, there are reports clearly stating, quoting Ukrainian officials, that as part of strategy, they carried out this drone strike on a non-residential building. And in fact, the building has been identified as a defense installation. So this is a big change from the past, where the Ukrainian forces are in fact admitting that they have carried out a drone strike on a defense installation well inside Russia. In fact, this was in Moscow, and this comes a little after a series of drone strikes carried out in Crimea by the Ukrainian forces. That was in retaliation to a missile strike that took place in the port city of Odessa in the south of Ukraine a little while earlier.
Okay, this was an unmanned air system that you can see in that video, captured on camera, smashing into a high-rise building. Abhishek, stay with me, because beyond the drone attacks by both sides, this war has continued for 516 days, mainly in and around the Black Sea area now. While Russia continues to target the port city of Odessa and its neighboring areas, Ukraine has been attacking, like Abhishek said, Crimea. In the process, the grain trade route has been further hit a week after Russia's exit from the grain deal. The war that rages in this region has been slowly enveloping and drawing in the world with each passing day. The question is, 516 days later, where is the Russia-Ukraine conflict headed?
The Russian invasion of Ukraine is now more than 500 days old. It's no longer a war from all fronts, but it still goes on. In Ukraine, attacks are now concentrated in the southern region of Odessa and its adjacent areas. A recent Russian air attack on the port city of Odessa killed 2 people and severely damaged a historic Orthodox cathedral. The missile attacks wounded 22 people, including 4 children, and destroyed 6 houses and apartment buildings. While UNESCO condemned the attack, President Volodymyr Zelensky pledged to retaliate.
Of course, our warriors managed to shoot down some of the enemy missiles and drones, and I thank each of our defenders of the sky for this. But unfortunately, the capacity of Ukrainian air defense is not yet enough to protect the entire Ukrainian sky. We are working with our partners as actively as possible to obtain additional air defense systems that can provide peace and security to our Odessa and all other cities and communities of our country.
The Secretary General strongly condemns the Russian attacks against port facilities and other Ukrainian ports on the Black Sea. The Russian Federation's commitment under the Memorandum of Understanding states that, quote, the Russian Federation will facilitate food, sunflower oil, and fertilizers from Ukraine.
Beyond the shelling and counter-shelling, food chain by hitting grain trade routes in the Black Sea. Ukraine and Russia are the breadbasket of the war. In Feb 2022, Russia has allowed to export its grain through the Black Sea. But still, 33 million tons. Of attacks in the Odessa region has slowed the process. Ukraine claims more than 60,000 tons of grain have been destroyed in the past 1 week of attacks. On 17th of July, Russia quit the grain deal brokered by the UN and Turkey in July last year. The deal allowed grain to be safely exported through the Black Sea for the past year. 1 week on, there is still no alternative to the lapsed deal.
With the termination of the Black Sea Initiative, the most vulnerable will pay the highest price, as when food prices rise, everybody pays for it.
Ukraine, in retaliation, has begun deploying cluster munitions of bombs that open in the air and release scores of smaller bomblets. It recently received them from the US. The Ukrainian attack is now focused on Crimea. On the other hand, the Russian mercenaries Wagner company has launched joint drills in Belarus almost a month after their short-lived rebellion against Moscow. Poland, in response, has built up troops on its border. As the war drags on, it has started to spread its tentacles across Europe and the world as well, with neither side backing out for peace. Bureau Report, India Today.
Back to Abhishek for another perspective on this, since he's visited both these countries and reported from there. Abhishek, over 500 days later, and you visited Russia and Ukraine twice each during the course of the last 516 odd days. Where are things headed right now? You know, we can see these, drone attacks concentrated around the Black Sea area, Odessa, Crimea. You're seeing the heart of Moscow being attacked, even though these are not high-intensity attacks. Where are things headed?
It's been more than 1.5 years now, and there is no end in sight as far as this war is concerned. Every now and then there are reports that there could be some kind of a ceasefire, that there could be some negotiations, but nothing on ground suggests that that could happen as of now, because it's not just the eastern Ukrainian part which is seeing intense fighting, but you are having, missile strikes even in the west of Ukraine, in the city of Lviv. The south of Ukraine, Odessa, has seen some intense drone strikes, missile strikes. So it seems that there is no end in sight, and it's sort of a stalemate, because the Russians are not relenting, the Ukrainians are not moving back, and it seems that this war is going to continue for many, many more months, because there is nothing on ground that suggests that there could be a ceasefire.
There's a crests and troughs as far as the intensity of the war is concerned. But like Abhishek says, over 500 days into this conflict, it has entered a pattern of a grind with small spikes in intensity that we've seen right now. So the question doesn't really have a very clear answer, sadly, about where this war is actually going. Abhishek, thanks very much for that.